Rolling.
This week on the Catch the Sky podcast, 18 food processing plants have caught fire in the last year. Is it an act of domestic terrorism, the anti-chicken brigade, or just plain coincidence? With me this week to discuss this and more is Dick Francisco.
Conspiracy theory detective, I might say so myself. So
You can find her on Instagram at the Dick Francisco or on Twitter at I'm Dick Francisco. You may find me on Twitter at CTS Terry or on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts by searching for the Catch the Sky podcast. Be sure to follow for weekly ad-free listening. Dick,
yo.
all of our processed foods are going up in flames. What are we going to do?
I know. See, here's the deal, T. I'm probably not the best person to ask because by the time we're done having this conversation, we're going to learn, one, it's not a conspiracy, and two, that I'm behind it. Because you all know how I feel about processed foods.
Well,
I ain't crying over this processed spilled milk, am I?
So if anybody actually does listen to this podcast, they have found the culprit, so we can, put a nice bow on this. But no, I did want to unpack this one a little bit more. So
Yeah. So what is going on?
Well, there was a fucking, fires happen all the time at these types of places. And I guess 18, when you compare it to like the 35,000 different plants there are, isn't a really big number, right? So things like this happen all the time. But for example, like a fucking plane crashed like into like General Mills a few weeks ago. And unfortunately, both the passengers died. But this is just throwing fuel onto the fire, no pun intended. And I just don't understand, like, how something like this can take over on the internet so quickly. Like, it's just one tweet. I started doing some half-ass internet research on this, and I get some tweets and a fucking Tucker Carlson Fox News interview. It's like
always good for being right time, right place. Tucker Carlson, right?
Damn it. So it's like, where am I supposed to go with this? But here I am.
Okay, so the theory, before I call it a conspiracy, the theory is that this is intentional and our food.
They're going to starve us.
They're going to starve us. Got it. Okay. You know what a good way to do that is just wage war. That's what Russia's doing to the Ukraine. But hey, but then you cut off all access to food in general, in a wartime.
Whoa,
but since we're more
Whoa.
Since
Whoa.
Is that an agreement in what I'm saying? Or is the dog upset about...
I don't know.
Is the dog concerned that starvation is upon him?
He's upstairs and I'm downstairs. What is he barking at?
Maybe he just found out that another food processing plant went up in flames and our processed food supply is in jeopardy. I am uncertain, T, but he is alarmed. He is alarmed.
Terrified.
So this is a good intro into that. How do conspiracy theories take off and how quickly we can get afraid of things, right? And then I think they're born in fear. And so
ghosts. There's definitely ghosts in my house.
Yeah, immediately. And you would believe that theory if I came and told you that right now because of what just happened. Look how vulnerable you are to a conspiracy theory, T.
I am ready for the chick from The Exorcist to crab walk backwards down my stairs and vomit blood at me. I can't wait.
So,
sleeping on the couch
this
tonight.
Conspiracy theory in particular, are you latching on? Do you believe it? Do you not believe it?
I mean, I think I still need a little bit more information, but let me take you on a journey, if you will.
Abort.
What's
Abort.
What's that?
Abort.
What do you mean?
I don't
what?
have time to go down your conspiracy theory journey. I think we have more pertinent things to talk about.
Abort. Abort.
Our sound engineer is really stepping up their game.
All I know is that
you just blew up my
distasteful?
episode quicker than
Is
the
that
fucking
distasteful, or does that lack tact to transition an episode from conspiracy theories and use these particular sounds?
Abort. Abort.
To transition into the topic of Roe versus Wade.
No, I think it's
I
fitting.
think it's perfect.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I mean, it's very us.
Jesus
It's very
Christ.
us.
Oh, so
yeah,
that's what you
see,
want to get into? Is that what you
I
really
do,
want to get?
because-
Okay, all right,
I
fine.
really
We
do.
couldn't avoid it. We couldn't steer clear of it.
I can't, because we're all about current events on this show.
And for the
And
record,
as much
it
as-
is the 2nd. It is May 2nd as of this recording. And this is all still the same recording. It's just been
All
blown
still
up.
the same recording.
It's just been
Yep.
fucking aborted.
It's been blown up like a food processing plant.
Well, we're still in the first trimester of the episode, so it's acceptable, right?
Well, there in Pennsylvania, you're allowed to abort during the first trimester. So
Gotcha.
I'll allow you to abort this
And-
episode. And
And that was actually part of the Roe v. Wade decision, if that's what we want to start with here. Back in, what was it, 70?
yeah, why don't you give us a little history, and then we'll talk about why we're talking about it
Was
today.
this, what was it, 73, right?
It was the 70s.
Yeah, it was the 70s. But yeah, specifically, it was the Supreme Court basically decided that women had the liberty to choose to have an abortion without excessive government restriction. So basically, they had the right to privacy by ruling of the 14th Amendment. And therefore, they were allowed to carry out with this procedure. I mentioned the trimesters because that was a sticking point. So if you had this procedure done in the first trimester, it was usually deemed acceptable. And during the second trimester, governments could require reasonable health regulations. And in the third trimester, abortions could be prohibited so long as the laws contained exceptions for cases when they were necessary to save the life or health of the mother. So basically, if it was in the third trimester, you were kind of screwed at that point. That's my interpretation.
Yeah, so I do actually believe, and that was how it started, right? I think it was Planned Parenthood versus Casey back in 1992 that upheld the Supreme Court's legal ruling for a woman's right to choose, but did abandon that trimester framework because they really felt like it was judicial activism. And so then, but I think what's always important to know about that Roe versus Wade is that, you know, really what happens when it's not in place is it's putting more of that, the decision onto individual states to make those choices of how they're going to choose to legally answer to or respond to women's rights when it comes to health, if you will.
So, Dick, why did you abort my conspiracy episode for this?
So I actually find it really interesting for multiple reasons. And I want to be clear to everybody
Why
that
are we talking about abortion today?
Despite my overusage of the abort button over here, it was very easy to push multiple times.
One more time.
Just one more for everybody.
Abort. Abort.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun to hit that button. So in the news today, it was breaking news, or was it yesterday? Yesterday. Either way, it just happened. I believe it was today, May 2nd. Is today May 2nd, you said, right? No, it's the 3rd. So it was yesterday. that Politico
What the
obtained
fuck happened to me? How the hell did I get that wrong? It is the 3rd.
Look, I have no idea what date you even said. Remember, I just found out it was Sunday 3 days ago, but I think it was only 2 days ago. We're a little bit of a mess here, but
that's fine. For the record, it's the 3rd. It's the 3rd, not the 2nd.
I'm just happy to know what day of the week it is today. So on May 2nd, then, which would have been yesterday, Politico had obtained a leaked initial draft of a majority opinion penned by Justice Samuel Alito, suggesting that the Supreme Court was going to overturn Roe versus Wade. And so what I found really interesting about that really set off a shitstorm throughout the country. And, you know, and we understand that Roe versus Wade and abortion as a topic has always been a very contentious one in this country, regardless of how you feel. It can be incredibly polarizing. But what I found really interesting about this that I think we need to talk about, that to make it clear to everybody, this isn't just an abortion episode, but really the implications of this were more interesting to me, which is never, ever am I aware of a draft majority opinion from the Supreme Court being leaked like this. And that really like hits at the core of our Supreme Court and how sacred, if you will, secure, secretive relative to maintaining confidentiality that has always been at the very, very foundation of the court, where very clearly it's suggested that justices and the Supreme Court in and of itself as a body is supposed to be of the utmost respected. And, you know, they don't play like politicians. They're not supposed to be politicians. And so to know that of all topics and all cases of which a majority opinion was penned, as they would say, or written about, was this one to be leaked, really proves just how emotionally charged this topic really is. Of all the things that go before the Supreme Court, and many of which are emotionally charged in general, this one is the one that you argue that whole notion of breaking a camel's back is the one that a majority opinion was leaked, and that is unheard of. I mean, it really, really is. And that I was taking a step back and thinking about that and going, wow, this is wild, because it really starts to degrade a little bit of the foundation of the Supreme Court then, because the idea of the court and how a judicial system works is to not be swayed by public opinion or otherwise. And protests broke out all over the place today. I mean, across the country over this topic. And this is just a draft opinion that has yet to be formally released. And that is wild.
Would have also been penned prior to Justice Brown's confirmation, correct?
I believe so. Which, again, really continues to come back to that idea that, is this not a political body? And I don't know if any of us really believed that it was, you know, devoid of politics or immune to politics. You go through it every time you see a confirmation hearing take place. But I really do think that this is going to have some major implications moving forward for a long time. Not the decision in and of itself. I think there was writing on the wall for a while that this was a potential and a strong potential, but more so the breach of confidentiality, the breach of trust, whatever that might mean, that took place that allowed a draft to be confidentially shared. Do you have any bets, since we like to bet on this show, who leaked it? Which one of the justices leaked it?
Putin.
I know, right?
Putin leaked it to Politico, and then right after that, he went and cyber attacked the Chrysler plant in Toledo.
So I love your conspiracy theory on this, right? I'm going to go back to the to our conspiracies, and I'm going to say that RBG on her deathbed told Sotomayor that she needed to carry the torch and, for the good of the order, leak it. Because RBG saw it coming. That's my conspiracy theory. And it was in her last dying testament. and ask of Sotomayor. That's my guess.
Time will tell, I guess. Will we ever find out who it was?
Well,
That's the thing. So wouldn't it have
the marshal of the Supreme Court has launched an investigation?
Because wouldn't one think that it would have to be one of the justices? Because aren't the justices the only ones in the room?
So it depends, right? Because they have court clerks. And so was it just an activist court clerk? Here's my guess. My guess is that even if there wasn't a court clerk in there, somebody lower on this totem pole other than a sitting Supreme Court justice is going to be blamed for this.
Oh, yeah.
That's my guess, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's about to happen. So who's going to be the scapegoat, right?
Well, yeah, I have no idea.
So let's talk about this a little bit, though, just because I think it'd be unfair.
Next?
Yeah, it'd be unfair not to talk about the implications of Roe versus Wade being overturned and really what that means. So I think the very first thing that everybody immediately just assumes is that
I'm never nutting in anybody ever again. Sorry.
No, I think that's
unless you've yeeted your uterus, it's not happening.
I know, right? Are we even allowed to use that soundbite? I don't know, but
yeah, this episode is gonna get pulled.
Yeah, this episode is not gonna last long, anyways. So,
oh hell no!
It's gonna wreck us.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I'm pretty sure that did wreck us there.
Oh, man.
But no, I think immediately it's this suggestion that no one can ever get an abortion again, and it's removed all rights essentially that a woman has. And I think
I heard there's home remedies and not just hangers. I heard there's like some fucking root or some shit that you can eat or shove up your vag.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, there's lots of things you can throw up there that I'm not going to suggest people do. Also, gin. I'm a strong believer in the power of gin. Gin has juniper berries in it, and juniper berries are not friendly to the reproductive system of a woman. And back in the day, juniper berries were used to help induce abortion. And so
There's
drink a
other
bottle of
stuff,
gin,
right?
ladies.
There's
If
other
you're
stuff.
pregnant, drink a bottle of gin.
Jesus
I'm kidding.
Christ.
Don't do that. I'm kidding. Do not do that.
But if you're going to
basically,
commit, drink two.
Yeah, at least two. I mean, because you're going to want to make sure it works.
Jesus.
Look,
if
we
the
are trying to
government
make
forces
light.
us into a corner, you know what I'm saying?
Already
Yeah,
understand
right?
that this episode is going to be canceled. so we're going all out, everybody.
Right,
okay.
yeah. But if they're gonna fucking honestly, like, I mean, it's fucked up to say, but women have gone to way more extreme measures than that, right?
Right. No, agreed. But this is back to
and we don't want them to
what
have to do that. This is
happens.
why the whole
No,
point
I
is doing
agree.
it in a sterile and healthy environment.
Yes.
I mean,
and that comes down to the debate, right? The debate is allowing abortion legally and allowing them to make a choice. And if they choose that, how do we create an environment that keeps them safe? And I'm
so
not
they
here to
aren't
debate.
facing 2 bottles of gin,
Sure.
right?
I am not here to
and coat hangers
I'm not even here to have the debate on
and shop
whether
facts.
I am not here to debate whether they should or shouldn't have an abortion. It's the notion of, because we know that women will choose that and have had the opportunity to choose that in a safe, sterile medical environment that protects their physical well-being, considering we're here having this discussion about life, that it can be incredibly dangerous for a woman to try these things on her own. And when I say incredibly dangerous, it's deadly, where the things that women have done to their bodies specifically to do this can often result in severe physical trauma to their body or death. And so I don't think any of us want that either.
No.
And I think that's where that toss-up comes
No.
up. But back to what a future without Roe versus Wade means, though, right? And what that means is there's no longer that layer of protection, from a federal standpoint. It really allows then states to put laws in place then that are restrictive or ban abortion. And so that's where you hear a lot of those debates now, is when a state, I think Texas is pretty popular for this and a few others, of passing state legislation and state laws related to abortion, and then they get challenged as to whether they are constitutional or not. And when they're being challenged, it's whether they are in violation of, say, this Roe versus Wade law. So if Roe versus Wade is no longer in place, I believe it's more than about 20 states, I've heard, already have laws and are prepared to restrict or ban abortion as soon as Roe versus Wade is overturned. So that's something that would take place. So out of our 50 states, there's certainly 20 that have been identified already. I know the state that I'm sitting in is one of them. T, the one you're in, is not identified as one of those 20.
I'm so excited for the states to be like choosing sides against one another. What do you think's going to happen first, World War III or Civil War II?
Well, here's another interesting one.
People just want to fucking fight with each other.
It could potentially cause a lot of movement throughout the states, just because there will continue to be states that allow abortion. Because if Roe versus Wade is no longer a federal law and then it becomes a states' rights issue, just like if you saw, medical marijuana or even now recreational marijuana, states allow it and states don't. And so you see people move around because of that, and they go to places where they can get it, or vice versa, however. And so those states that will continue to allow abortion.
Who does that?
What's that?
Who would do such a thing?
States that continue to allow abortion more than likely are going to see an influx of patients coming to them, right? So I think the out-of-state abortion business is going to be popping. That'll be crazy. And then I think there's also just that reality of,
what if they pass a law where you can report somebody for getting their out-of-state abortion and get them arrested?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of implications here that'll be very interesting to see what
stuff,
happens.
Right? What'd you do on vacation? Like, what if they tried to arrest me for getting my laser tattoo removal?
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole slippery slope that certainly could be talked about here when we start going beyond the implications of how people individually feel about the act of abortion and, whether it's taking a life or not. And that's a whole separate debate. But I think the debate on a higher, more broad level is very much what you're saying, is someone's right to their own body, and at what stage could it be dictated that the things that you have done or you're choosing to do to your body are or aren't allowed. I think sometimes that gets criticized because we go, well, that's so different because abortion has everything to do with, a fetus and not just the mother's life, but the potential of another life being taken. And
we act like we're down to the last two fucking people on the planet.
I still just question the slippery slope of a lot of these things, though. I think back to our conspiracy theories and COVID, the idea of the vaccination and there being a request or a push from the federal government to determine if they could mandate it. I mean, so these become some of those things that we weren't talking about abortion, and we weren't talking about a fetus living inside a woman's body. We were talking about individuals being mandated to have to get a particular health treatment.
My body, my choice.
Because it was perceived by the federal government to be in the best interest of others. And it's a really interesting conversation. A scary one, because remember, when we suggest that the federal government is getting to make determinations as to what's in our best interest, the federal government is made up of humans too, right?
Look, Dick.
So the suggestion that any other humans are better or worse than us at decision making is interesting.
It's my body, my choice, but I'm a straight white man, so my body, my choice applies to me. But you're a woman. And this is America.
Yeah.
So That's not how this works.
But no, and I agree. I think I've been living under those, realities for a long time.
And I'm sorry.
I think it was interesting to see that shift when we started having discussions about mandating health treatments through a pandemic, for instance.
Yes. No, I completely agree with you. And it's not.
And so suddenly you weren't immune to that.
It's an unfortunate reality that we live in. And I'm sorry that you ladies are being politicized.
But it's not
again.
just about women, I think there's implications to men here too when it comes to the discussion about abortion and
the pregnant man
choices.
emoji now. So you know,
no,
you never know.
Obviously, it takes sperm to fertilize an egg, and so it takes two to tango, no matter how you do it. And I think the implications either way about the ability to abort a child, or, a fetus or whatever language you want to use, it has implications for everybody. And I think it has implications on our healthcare system. I'm
sure pregnant Arnold Schwarzenegger considered it. Did you ever see Junior?
I did.
Yes. I'm sure he thought about it.
I'm appreciating the highbrow level of this conversation here right now.
Look, I'm just trying to fucking keep it light because we're just getting into the first chapter of The Handmaid's Tale here, and I'm just what the fuck is going on? And
you're in a good position. You're a straight white male in Pennsylvania, bro.
Yeah, great. Good for me. Awesome. I
Couldn't
know.
be any better.
God, the weather could be. No, but no. Well, I want to know what the long-term impacts are going to be. Like you said, there's going to be people moving around, but I kind of hinted at that. What's gonna happen beyond this? Is this going to be another wedge that drives people's we've already seen a huge political divide in this country, and it's just this isn't going to make things any better. I don't think. I don't.
No, I agree.
This will make it better.
No, I think there's always that slippery slope that we don't always look at the consequences of a decision. And again, not even here to debate the decision. I'm really not. As much as, like you're saying, do we look at the consequences of the decisions that we're making versus the short-term gain, or not even just short or long-term, but the myopic view versus the bigger picture? And I can see the myopic view of people, especially from a conservative justice standpoint, who believe that Roe versus Wade is not something that they fundamentally can believe in. And I can acknowledge that and then reason with their decision making on that. However, I'm always interested in the full ramification and domino effect of any of these decisions. And I'm always just curious how much of that impacts these discussions and is considered. So when you start to look at healthcare systems then, and you start looking at the healthcare systems in these states that are still going to allow abortion and the taxing on those healthcare systems that's going to take place. So now you're not dispersing healthcare throughout all of the states when it comes to things like abortion or women's health, because I think we also have to acknowledge that it's not just about abortion at that stage. Women's health and a woman feeling capable of being taken care of. I know that from my own personal journey, you guys have heard that on this show, that the best health care that I can get is very, very important to me. And do I feel like I'm going to get that in a state and in a place where the medical treatment and the medical community is not allowing me in some form or fashion to make my own decisions or have full rights to my body? And so already that makes an impact on me. I'm not looking to have an abortion. You all have heard my story, right? That I don't have anything to abort. But it also makes me evaluate the health decisions and the health care that I have access to in a state that's going to restrict me as a woman. Just plain and simple. So I'm not even here again to debate that. I probably want to go to a place where the topic or discussion of women's health is as open as possible so I could always get the best care I want and I need, but that's going to start to tax those states that become limited when other states are being restrictive. That's how I would feel as a woman as I approach the healthcare system suddenly.
So,
And then that has a long-term impact on any one of our health, you know? And so when you start thinking about people's access to great healthcare, I have the ability to travel for healthcare if I ever wanted to. Not everybody has that ability. And so now you start degrading the health of a society in general who can't get the care that they may need or want, or sometimes both. Pregnancy is a very difficult thing to go through. And so there's a slippery slope to abortion, which can be sometimes there's a need for a woman in order for her to be able to maintain her health as the mother to maybe not carry that child. There's a reality to that. And I'm the first over here, you know, survival of the fittest, sure, but that's not the society we live in. And so attacks on the long-term health of our community, especially when rights on the health side are restricted, because this is just one of the ways it can be restricted, right, is detrimental to the rest of us because we all pay into that system at the end of the day. That's my soapbox, T. That's my soapbox. Where in the end, I don't even think it's about abortion anymore.
but abortion wasn't mentioned in the Constitution, so sucks to suck. That's what I gathered from this this memo that was passed around, right?
But isn't that scarier then? Because you start to realize all the things that don't have to be mentioned, but yet can be.
You know, McDonald's and Microsoft aren't mentioned in the fucking Constitution either.
No, that's what I'm saying, though. I'm trying to think of the right word I was looking for there is they don't have to be mentioned to be governed, right? And so this idea of small government, you know, it really, though? Because from a small government perspective, then my body, my choice, right? Personal choice and individual choice would suggest small government would allow me to make my own choices and manage those choices. And so I think the implications to a decision like this start to actually invade my life a whole lot more than I'd prefer government to, you know?
Yep. But invaded they will. Just like they're invading uteruses across the country as we speak.
It's why I get super fascinated by the political polarization of topics like this, where I'm not, you know, at any given point, you could look at political parties that are in opposition to each other as to where people were landing on mandating vaccinations to people. And yet the opposite, you know, those people are going to be the same ones that are going to believe that they should be allowed to tell me that I can't have a particular medical procedure that I choose to make a choice for my body on my own healthcare, even though they thought I should be able to choose whether I get a vaccine or not. And I'm like, man, I'm confused at the fine lines or the fine print here that makes these things different.
Because they need you to have that baby.
Live my life.
Because they need you to have that baby. They need that baby.
Yeah, I don't think they want me to have
They
that
need
baby.
that baby.
I'm just
They
saying,
need
I don't
that
think
baby.
You want my baby.
They want to suck on its sweet juices.
Oh, back to conspiracy theories, right? I'm sure that was one, right?
Well, if you watched the South Park episode on
Yes.
aborted fetuses, then yes.
Yeah.
But Dick, is there anything else that you want to hit on in regards to this breaking news this week?
No, I think we're going to keep watching it, though, T. I think this is
obviously
an
this
interesting
is the
and
first time we've
important
discussed
one.
it.
No, I also think that it's an interesting discussion since we most recently had our episode about whether we should have children or not.
Right.
I feel like for you in particular, you know, a decision like this starts to really help you evaluate some of your decisions too, because the implications,
like I told you,
become a little bit more real for you.
Yeah. Oh, the most recent load covered her whole back. It was just wild.
You're so gross.
It was wild. I just rubbed it in like sunscreen.
Pussy.
No, not in the pussy. All in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
All
butt
in the
cheeks.
back.
There was enough.
Got it.
There was enough.
Yeah. Again,
So
you all
for
do not
anybody
want
out
this man
there-
having a child. So
Yeah.
for the sake of humanity, I am imploring the Supreme Court to take this opportunity to reevaluate that draft majority opinion. It's not too late, Chief Roberts. Think about T and the fact that he should not procreate.
At least not right now.
Right, we'll leave it at that. You should not procreate.
So, to anybody out there that has any opinions on this episode or anybody that's really into cum, you can find me on Instagram.
We're 100% ruining this because we know we're going to get kicked off the air on this one, right? That's what's happening here. Oh, God.
Search for the Catch the Sky podcast or on Twitter at CTS Terry or at I'm Dick Francisco or on Instagram at the Dick Francisco. Dick, thank you for joining me this week. And
Almost always a pleasure, T.
almost always a pleasure. Almost always. Oh, thank you everybody for listening, and until next week, keep trying to catch the sky.